issues to do with sports at the basic level, Mr. Speaker, because we can do a whole schedule, Mr. Speaker. Members here, Mr. Speaker, when we were doing the first budget on the 29th of 2023, June, Mr. Speaker, members had committed so much money within the sports kitty with the aspect of doing tournaments in their own wards, Mr. Speaker. But when it came to supplementary one, Mr. Speaker, there in December, Mr. Speaker, most of the members were removing that money from that department, Mr. Speaker. If my memory serves me right, as the chair budget, Mr. Speaker, we removed around 17 million from that department to other activities, Mr. Speaker. There is a bottlenecked kind of system that the sports committee must crack, Mr. Speaker, even as we pass such a crucial bill, that what is affecting us is not even the integration of us and the big organizations that are working with within this country. Because for us to get another Kiptum, Mr. Speaker, we must start from the ward level, Mr. Speaker. For us to get another good player, the level of Cristiano Ronaldo, Mr. Speaker, we must start nurturing talent from the basic level, Mr. Speaker. If today we just want to cooperate with the big units, Mr. Speaker, of Sports Kenya and all the other Athletic Kenya, and we have forgotten, Mr. Speaker, that we, as the lowest level serving unit of this country, Mr. Speaker, cannot address that some people need to do a tournament in your ward. They need to integrate between wards and wards, Mr. Speaker. These funds are there, Mr. Speaker. If bursary is able to be given to all the students, Mr. Speaker, I believe that we should readdress the issue on how the enhancement of money that will go to the sports department for the purpose of nurturing talents. This weekend, Mr. Speaker, we shall be having some tournaments, rugby tournaments, Mr. Speaker, both here in Nakuru and also in Naivasha, Mr. Speaker. But if you ask Honorable Adhiai, who is the vice chairperson within the Committee of Sports, Mr. Speaker, he will not tell you a thing that he has contributed to that. I have watched Mheshimiwa Paranga holding tournaments from his own pocket in many years. Come December, he normally holds his tournament on December 29 or 31st, Mr. Speaker, each and every year since I was a pupil in primary school, Mr. Speaker. Last year, I was able to grace it as a guest of honor in his own ward. And he asked me to give him something to award the people who are winning, Mr. Speaker. Yet, Mr. Speaker, we have monies within our wards, Mr. Speaker. All we are doing is doing classes, Mr. Speaker. We are doing ECD classes. We are doing something that is not going as per what we expect within the county. Mr. Speaker, I believe the Committee on Sports have more to do, more than what we have here as a bill, Mr. Speaker. If we must make an impact to this nation, to our own people, Mr. Speaker, I think we must. Mr. Speaker, it further goes on. When we were doing the CASA games, Mr. Speaker, we asked that we have a volleyball court within this facility, Mr. It has not happened, Mr. Speaker. The only thing that we have is people playing pool table here, Mr. Speaker. We have gurus of pool table, like the likes of Moriah here, Mr. Speaker. Some of us don't even go to the table, because we cannot hit a ball straight, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, I'm requesting that all this be collaborative in nature, that we must be serious on issues that we are addressing in this House. Because if we don't do it right, Mr. Speaker, all the members within this House, including Mr. Speaker, might not see heaven. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Alex, the chair budget. But then there is a discussion that you brought, whether, I don't know if it's substantiated, the Honorable Palanga, that you used to attend his ward tournaments when you were a small chap. So, Honorable Palanga, is it the Honorable Palanga or another Palanga in?
Mr. Speaker, I want to confirm the Palanga that I'm talking about. He is Peter Palanga Manyonge, Mr. Speaker, who hails from Orkaria Ward, Mr. Speaker. And this gentleman I think the only boot he's never bought me is a football boot. I would have been a footballer. When you see his head shining out of hair, Mr. Speaker, it's out of the experience. Lakini akili nywele. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. That is that's a good history. But then the discussion will be escalated elsewhere after this session. The Honourable Member for Viwandani.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika kwa sababu ya nafasi hii. Kwanza nataka kupongeza kamati ya michezo, utamaduni kwa sababu ya kufikiria vile tunavyoweza kutunza vipawa katika nchi yetu na kaunti yetu. Mheshimiwa Spika, ni vyema ya kwamba tunaweza kufikiria na kuwaza vile ambavyo tunaweza kusaidia ama kushika vipawa, lakini pasipo na njia na mwelekeo wa kuyafanya haya hatuwezi kufanya lolote. Kwa hivyo nataka kuwapongeza na tena niseme ya kwamba ni vizuri, kwa sababu tangu tuingie hapa niliuliza habari kuhusu vile ambavyo pesa imekuwa ikitumika ya michezo tangu miaka ugatuzi uanze, ingawaje chairman hakuniletea ripoti. Nimeona amekuja na binu ingine ya kuhakikisha ya kwamba pesa zitatumika vizuri. Kwa hivyo sasa hata kama hajaniletea nitasubiri kuona ya kwamba tukitekeleza haya ambayo yamependekezwa na pengine mengine ambayo tutayaongezea. Kwa hivyo Mheshimiwa Spika, kama vile mwenzangu amesema, ni kwamba michezo huunganisha watu. Leo hii muda wa saa 5 na dakika 15 wengi wetu hapa tutakuwa tunatazama timu ya Arsenal na Bayern Munich ambayo itakuwa ikichezwa. Na ni kweli mimi sitarara kwa sababu mimi ni shabiki, ingawaje sio wa Arsenal, mimi ni shabiki wa Man U. Kwa hivyo nitakuwa nikienda kuangalia ama kutazama vile itakavyochezwa, na huwa inatupatia motisha. Na ni vizuri sana kama nchi yetu itafika kiwango ya kwamba mataifa mengine yataweza kuwa yakitazama timu ambazo zitakuwa zimekuja ama talanta ambazo zitakuwa zimekuja baadaye, ya kwamba kuna timu ambayo itakuwa ikitazamwa na hata nchi za Afrika kwa kupitia mswada huu ambao tutaupitisha hapa siku hii ya leo. Ningependa kuona vijana wengine wengi ambao watakuwa na majina kama ya Kipchoge Keino na wengine Kamau, the former Kamau na wengine, kupitia mswada huu ambao tutaupitisha siku hii ya leo. Na pia Mheshimiwa Spika, ningeomba kamati ya michezo na utamaduni katika ugavi wa hizi pesa ambazo zitakuwa zimetengewa michezo, kuwe na kamati maalum ambayo itakuwa ikiangalia hizi pesa. Maana kamati ambayo iko saa hii kazi yake ni kununua t-shirts na vinyasa. Na Mheshimiwa Spika, unakuta watu, nilikuwa ninatembea nikipita huko biashara mahali ulikuwa unawakilisha, nikakutana na jamaa amevaa t-shirt juu ya hizi nguo za motorbike, na ni ya county government of Nakuru kutoka Kiptororo. Sasa mpaka nikashindwa huyu mtu alitoka wapi akakuwa na t-shirt ya Kiptororo all the way to the far end ya Nakuru. So Mheshimiwa Spika, lazima tukue na mpangilio mzuri kupitia kamati hii, na sisi kama wabunge tuwasaidie kuhakikisha ya kwamba haya maneno yote na mambo yote yametekelezwa kulingana na vile itafaidi. Sio kila saa tunangojea wakati kuna campaigns ndio tunapanga tournament, ndio tunapanga michezo hii ya kucheza kama vile Mheshimiwa Alex amesema ya kucheza pool. Na ni vizuri, michezo sio tu mpira, michezo sio tu kukimbia, kuna ingine, the disciplines we had in our last Kasa game. Hata mheshimiwa mwenzangu hapa alicheza draft. So all these are disciplines na ni michezo ambayo inaweza inua mtu. Sasa mheshimiwa alikuwa ametarajia sana ataenda Rwanda kwa sababu ya kucheza tu draft. Na ni vizuri kwa sababu alinishangaza alijulia hiyo wapi. Huwa ninajua tu ni ya wanaume. Lakini mheshimiwa ni vizuri. So mheshimiwa Speaker, kama vile mheshimiwa Alex ameuliza, hata kama sio officially communicating to the house ama to the member, I know kuna uwanja tunatengenezewa ya volleyball. Kwa hivyo the young men here seen as old watakuwa wakipata mahali ya kutoa na kupunguza hii uzee, na pia sisi tufurahia wakati tunatetea hawa wengine. Asante sana mheshimiwa Speaker.
Thank you, Mheshimiwa. The Honorable Member for Walkaria.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, to allow me to contribute to this important bill. First and foremost, I must thank the committee under the leadership of our Honorable Chair for the good job done towards coming up with this bill. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, allow me also to appreciate my son, my chair for a budget, because there are very few people in this world who really recall and appreciate small input or support they may have received. And my chair, who is currently my chair for budget, who is my son, because indeed I paid for his school fees by then when I was a councillor then. And I'm always proud of him that now we serve in the same assembly, and he is my chair. And so, Mr. Speaker, I want to bless him before the House that with that kind of appreciation, you are going far, because very many people have actually gotten any support, but they don't appreciate. So, my brother, I'm humbled and I'm happy for you. Mr. Speaker, coming back to the bill, it is long overdue for us to have such a bill. Mr. Speaker, and it's important also to mention, probably just as information to my fellow members here, that I'm the MCA for Walkaria Ward today, courtesy of sports. My first entry to Naivasha, having left Bungoma County, was through sports when I was playing for Syrian Fast Tag. And Mr. Speaker, it's out of that the members of that particular area appreciated and have endorsed me or have given me that opportunity to serve them for all this time of period. Or were it not of the sporting activities, I would have not even known where Naivasha is, and by extension where Nakuru County is. So, Mr. Speaker, I stand to contribute to this particular bill with a lot of passion as the first beneficiary to the sporting activities. Mr. Speaker, I wish to put some emphasis on some few areas where probably we need to anger as we amend, as we get into adopting this bill, we really put some emphasis. The importance of sporting activities cannot be overemphasized beyond the issue of bringing people together. We have had, like, for example, where we come, diverse in terms of communities around whichever the area. Mr. Speaker, it's only sporting activities that people really come together, regardless of their ethnic tribes or communities. Mr. Speaker, more often than not, we have always rejoiced when we have one of us as Kenyans emerging a winner, clinching some kind of trophies, even outside the country, because at that point in time, that's when we all celebrate Keino, Kipchoge, and name them as Kenyans, and not as Luyas or Kisis or Masais or that. And so, Mr. Speaker, the sporting activities comes in as a unifying factor for us as a community, and indeed, we need to embrace this. Mr. Speaker, I wish to really just put some concerns. We need, as we adopt this bill, and this is the chair and the committee at large, we need to embrace on how other countries outside Africa are doing. We kind of get to start spotting these talents at a little bit late age. I wish to have a situation where within this bill, we embrace even young tax at 10 years and below, 14 years, and so that all those cadres of identification of these talents, because you cannot teach an old dog the new tricks. So we need to see how do we then embrace these young tags at that early tender stage, so that we also subject them to these kind of talents, and in fact get to show them the importance of these bills or these kind of activities. Mr. Speaker, elsewhere, others have taken games and sporting activities just like others, because really they don't see the importance and the benefits out of this. We need really to enact and put into even our bill, how do we then embrace those young tags towards this? But most importantly, Mr. Speaker, and this is to the chair again, because I've not really gone through into details of the bill, the issues of corruption of the leaders managing this kind of sporting activities. We must put stern measures to stem out the issues of corruption. We have seen people enriching themselves out of the money that was meant to really promote our talents within ourselves. So how is it that we need to do? So, Mr. Speaker, I wish that we be keen on how do we kind of put some measures, actionable measures, to be taken against those people who could working against the talents. Mr. Speaker, as I wind up almost going down to sit, I have seen that some of the provisions we are proposing to have the ward administrators, for example, to coordinate the activities. Mr. Speaker, I think as we discuss on this, we need really to evaluate. Most of these ward administrators, and not anything attached to, they do not have passion for these sporting activities. So how do we beef it up to have people who have passion, people who are committed to ensuring that indeed whatever that was meant to get to the ground gets there? I have just some concern that as we're even getting to adopting this, we need to be wary and be cautious of who do we entrust with these funds in terms of even coordinating the sporting activities. So that even if it will go even further, getting any other person, not necessarily from the government per se, but somebody who has passion, somebody who is committed to really ensure that indeed we realize the goal as it is envisaged into this particular bill. However, more said than done, Mr. Speaker, I wish to also end up by saying the issues of funding. We must also provide on how do we get to fund these kind of programs from our village areas, from our wards perspective, to even the other one. Because even if, Mr. Chair, we want to come up with a bill, the question will be, what have we had value for money, for whatever amount of money that we have allocated there before? Because, Mr. Chairman, I know we have had 250,000 there before. It has been a problem if actually for the MCAs who have allocated some amount of money to this particular effect. So what is it that we are bringing in law within this bill that is going to be a cure to those kind of problems that we have had there before? Otherwise, Mr. Speaker, I want to end up by saying I'm really happy, I'm humbled to be here, courtesy of being a footballer, and here I am as an MCA. So I'm the first beneficiary to this, and I'm humbled that this bill is going to go a long way answering and mitigating some of the problems we have faced before. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. The Honourable Member for Mayu.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me the opportunity and chance to give my input to the bill. Mr. Speaker, before I got the bill, Mr. Speaker, myself, I'm a lover of sports, Mr. Speaker, particularly in athletics and soccer, Mr. Speaker. But myself, I do not participate in any game, Mr. Speaker, but I'm a very good spectator, Mr. Speaker. And I led a cheering school, Mr. Speaker. I recall during the CASA games, Mr. Speaker, I had a very great team that was cheering school, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, until today, the team was not appreciated, Mr. Speaker. So I think, Mr. Speaker, when we are doing the budget, Mr. Speaker, also it's good to recognize and give a chance for the Chinese school, Mr. Speaker. We are doing so with Honorable Virginia, who was my vice, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable Chair for Sports kindly take note on the budget, but then we are not aware that there was a game called Cheering Squad.
Mr. Speaker, it's a very important school, Mr. Speaker, that cheers players, Mr. Speaker. So coming back to the bill, Mr. Speaker, I think sports are the unifying, most of the high unifying factor, Mr. Speaker, that unites people despite the tribe, the religion, and whatever, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I would like to thank the Committee on Sports, Mr. Speaker, for coming up with this bill and the amendments, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I think as a county, we have a long way to go, Mr. Speaker. Because in my feeling, Mr. Speaker, we need to come up also with a plan, and this is the committee, Mr. Speaker, that we are supposed to have, if it's a soccer, we have an Nakuru team, Mr. Speaker, where at least we can engage as sub-counties, Mr. Speaker. We play an inter-game, Mr. Speaker, where we are going to come up with maybe with a Nakuru soccer team, Mr. Speaker, of which we involve every ward, Mr. Speaker. I think we can have a playoff, Mr. Speakers, between the 55 wards, Mr. Speaker. So I think, Mr. Speaker, as Nakuru, we are proud. Because as a country, Mr. Speaker, we can see that in terms of athletics, Mr. Speaker, our country, Kenya, shines, and the shining of our country comes from Nakuru, Mr. Speaker. So if, as a county, we play along in sport, Mr. Speaker, I think we are going to mess even the whole country, Mr. Speaker. So therefore, I would like to recommend the work done by the Committee on Sports, but I would like to tell them that we have a long way to go in terms of sport in Nakuru. We are not in better place, Mr. Speaker. I think we need to put more effort. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Member from Maimayu. We're going to have members in this way. The Honorable Member for Sirikwa, the Honorable Member for Kivumbini, and the Honorable Member, the Honorable Wamaida, in that order. And then we are going to take another round.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for according me this opportunity also to bring my sentiments on this bill. Mr. Speaker, let me first and foremost thank the Committee of Sports, led by their chairman, Honorable Alex Ball, for bringing in this important bill and motion that is geared towards making sporting activity across our country competitive and in terms of also seeing that the talents across our country are nurtured in a very special way. Mr. Speaker, for my ward, I also happen to have conducted a number of tournaments. And these tournaments, Mr. Speaker, if well supported through a bill such as this one, it will see a number of people across the world coming out actually in one way or the other, make our country great, and especially our Nakuru. So, Mr. Speaker, I'm in full support of this bill, and actually I want to thank this committee.
Thank you. The member for Serikwa. The honorable member for Kivumbini.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir, for granting me this chance. I do support this bill on the contents that the chair had earlier mentioned. We need to nurture talents, and we can all confirm that sports also nowadays grants an opportunity for employment. Just on the same line, maybe as we adapt this report as Nakuru County Assembly honorable members, maybe to fast track the implementation part of it from the Committee of Implementation, to adopt the same report and make sure the implementation part of it has been done. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Thank you. The Honorable Omaida.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to give my input on the second reading for the Sports Act Bill, the Sports Bill. Mr. Speaker, it's one of those days that we say as the youth of Nakuru County that we are proud, and we are within this moment that we're going to be part and parcel in terms of gathering different groups in order to get their views on the sports bill. Mr. Speaker, being a youth of Nakuru County, to be very honest, I've been born and raised in this county, but I've never participated in any local sports activity in Nakuru County. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, I may not be the only person, but there are few or a portion of other youth like myself, and having a law in place will have a voice to come and oversight the county executive in terms of the money, the usage of the money that is being spent within the county, and also mapping which constituencies need more of sports, because, Mr. Speaker, different constituencies have different characteristics in terms of their youth, in terms of their people. Therefore, it also in the bill that it's able to map the different needs for the different constituencies, and therefore allocating the right budget for the different needs. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, the Honourable Member for Honourable Amaida. The member for Kiamaina, the Honourable Warege, and the Honourable Member for London, in that order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir, for giving me this opportunity. I wish to commend the Sport Committee for a good job that they have done, but I support the bill with amendment, further amendment on clause 10, and I read, it says, amend clause 10 of the bill by deleting the words, there is establishment of fund known as the Nakuru County Sports Fund, and submitting it, therefore, with the funds for the implementation of this act shall consist of monies clause 10 to read, the county government shall allocate at 0.002% of the county budget. County budget $301,126. I think this money is not sufficient. I would propose
Thank you, Honourable Member for Kiamaina. Kindly have a writing of that specific clause, the amendment that you would want to have, you take it to the committee, through the chair, so that now when we proceed to the committee of the whole later this day, those amendments would be captured. The Honourable Member for London.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir, for having me this opportunity. Mr. Speaker, sir, I take this opportunity to commend on Committee on Sport led by our able chair and vice chair. I believe this is one of the departments that youths are very hopeful of in terms of sporting activities and so many other activities. Mr. Speaker, sir, I believe we are in age whereby sports is not just an entertainment, it creates also job opportunity. Job opportunity, and we can be able to identify to come here as an MCA, which happened to be able to, if we can be able to ensure that we lay a good foundation for our young generation so that they can be able to showcase their talents. I believe to some extent we'll be able to have competent players who will transit to be professional, and it will help in terms of getting resources from abroad to our country that will help in terms of development. The other thing I believe is that it usually unifies us as a communities, and it is one of the greatest ways that we can be able to bring our youths together during or when we want to sensitize them or to do civic education onto them. We have to ensure that we have such interactions or gaming so that our youths can be able to converse, can be able to relate in one way or the other as we continue progressing. So, and the other thing that it will help us, I believe lands are diminishing because of land grabbing, and I believe there are so other lands that were set aside for sporting activities. If we can be able to make these land vibrant, I believe we'll be able to reach on those lands where we can be able to secure them and utilize them in gaming activity for our youths as we continue rolling forward. The other thing, I believe we have existing gaps within the sports department, and I believe because we have competent leadership at the sports committee, Alex Ball and Mheshimiwa Thiai, I believe when we were procuring sporting items like balls, uniform and so other things, we have been getting substandard kind of items that are bought. I believe it is something that we are supposed to address through this, because to some extent, the last that we were able to give to our communities, they didn't even last for 2 weeks. And those were volleyballs, balls and footballs, and so many other items. So I believe if we can be able to address such a matter, it will be able to help us in one way or the other. The last thing I believe here, I don't know what we are supposed to do, but through your guidance, Speaker, and the sporting committee, I believe through CDFs, MPs are able to set tournaments that are bringing our people together. If even as we can have a room on how we can be able to set a kit so that we can be able to have tournaments within our wards that will bring our people together, I believe it will be advantageous of us, because that is the only way that we'll be able to bring our people together so that we can be able to engage them at length in terms of what is supposed to be done and how it is supposed to be done, so that we can be able to get very active, a very cooperative society as we move forward. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I raise to support the bill.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Lare, who is the minority leader, the Honorable Kilel, the Honorable Member for Barut, and the last person will be the member for Malewa West.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to contribute on this important bill on sports. And I say it's a good bill, but I have a concern on Article number 7. This is on the establishment of the Ward Sports Committee. Mr. Speaker, the members who have spoken here have a concern about the wards, because that is where the sports begin. However, Mr. Speaker, if you look at that part 7, I have a concern because the ward has only one person there in that particular phrase. So it says the establishment of the ward sports committee. There is an established for each ward in the county committee known as the ward sports committee, which consists of the following. One, we have the ward administrator, who shall be the chairperson. And Mr. Speaker, if you had the statements from some of the members, this ward administrator in most cases is a stranger to that ward, so it doesn't belong to that ward. Number 2, then it says an officer in the directorate responsible for coordinating sports at the ward level. In my ward, I don't think I have a sports officer who coordinates such activities, unless the other wards are provided with a sports officer. The only sports officer I've had is the one who controls sports at the sub-county level. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, that is also another stranger in my ward who is coming to coordinate activities in my ward. And of course, the other wards that are here. C, there are 2 other members who are here, nominees of Sports Kenya, from the body responsible for promoting and organizing sports in the county. Again, 2 sports officers, 2 nominees. Again, they are not from my ward, so that forms 4 who are not members of my ward. So far, nobody has represented my ward and nobody knows my ward. And then the other person who is here now, in addition, number clause CD, it says the ward elected member of the county assembly who shall be the patron of the ward committee. So, Mr. Speaker, if you look at that, the way it is framed, my ward, I'm the only person who is in that ward. So if I miss to be part of that meeting, it means then those who will come and attend the meeting in my ward are all strangers. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, I feel that with all due respect to the chairman and the committee, that an amendment has to be made so that at least, if you look at the 5 members well nominated here to be members of that committee, out of the 5 members, I'm the only person who is a member of that particular ward. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, I'm of the strong opinion that of the 5 members, at least we have 3 persons that know my ward, that can actually float activities of my respective wards. And Mr. Speaker, if you look at the functions of that committee, one of the functions that has been put there is coordinating and implementing. So how can you implement and coordinate a ward that you don't know? You're not even a member of that ward. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, I would ask the committee to look at that. And before we proceed, we have an amendment to that section where we have more members that come from the respective wards where the sporting activities are made. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Minority Leader, note the way that you want it to be and to appear, so that now when we come to the committee of the whole, that is exactly what is going to be captured for the purposes of this bill. The Honorable Masekile.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity. I want to thank the chair and my fellow members of the Sports Committee for taking part to come up with this bill. Mr. Speaker, they say you cannot cure a wound by by putting a bandage on it. Neither can you stitch the backside to cure diarrhea. Mr. Speaker, this bill is a cure to the ailing sports in our county. For the longest time, the sports department and the sports in general in this county has been left to the bin. Mr. Speaker, if you look at the prescription that the committee has given on the function of the committee, we as a committee will be reviewing policies, overseeing county sporting events. For example, we just had the recently held WLC rally, and we saw that the committee was not incorporated in the organization of the sports. We have seen AK and the sports department from the ministry coming severally to the county. The sports committee has not been part and parcel in organization of sports in this county. So by giving the recommendation and the functions of the committee, I think that will be clear and there shall never be any friction between the role and the sports committee in the grassroots. Want me to lean? Sorry about that. Mr. Speaker, I believe the establishment of a grassroots mobilization, a grassroots sports committee will be Someone is sabotaging my presentation. You cannot be doing this back and forth. Give me a mic. I'm losing my chain of thought.
The honorable member, you get a microphone. That one is not working?
It keeps glitching. Mr. Speaker, these are some of the things that must be relooked. So I was saying the establishment of the sports committee in the wards will help mobilizing talent in the villages. For example, I come from a very fertile place as far as talent is concerned. Kiptororo produces the best athletes, but Mr. Speaker, as we speak, none has ever participated internationally to compete with the rest of the world. So, Mr. Speaker, with this, I believe this bill should be supported wholeheartedly by the House to see the growth of talent in Nakuru County. Mr. Speaker, one word for Mr. Moneybags, Honorable Alex, who is the budget chair. He said that we should continue to see budget allocations happening. I wonder who does that, yet that lies solely with his committee. In the past, we have seen money allocated to the wards being slashed down. So you cannot be speaking from both ends of the mouth, yet we see members suffering by having their allocations slashed. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. The honorable member for Barut.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity. First, I would like to thank Committee on Sport for the job well done. Mr. Speaker, I'm in agreement with my colleague that sport activities brings people together and pays. You remember, Mr. Speaker, in our last CASA games, especially football team, I was the best player. I was the best top scorer. But I've been waiting to be awarded by the Committee on Sport and Department. But until today, Mr. Speaker, I've had nothing from this committee. So I think maybe next time they will consider that, because I tried to put our team, maybe I take them to the quarters. But today, Mr. Speaker, I'm still waiting to see whether this committee or the Department of Sport will maybe awarding. So I think, Mr. Chair, you are now taking notes that next time you put something there to consider people like us and Mheshimiwa Palanga. We try our level best, but until to date, nothing has happened to the two of us. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. The honorable member for Baruti, that's a very significant suggestion in as far as budgeting. So the honorable chairperson for sports and the chair budget, kindly when you're doing your budgeting, consider the CASA and the Alaska part, so that now the members are not just competing at this level. And then whenever they have an opportunity to move forward in the sporting activities, then we do not have the facilitation. Kindly take note. The honorable member for Malewa West.
Thank you, Mheshimiwa Speaker. First of all, I would like to commend the good job from the chair and his committee. And I stand to support the bill, Mheshimiwa Speaker. With this bill, it reflects or shows that as a county, we have a goodwill and mostly to our youths who are mostly involved in sports activity. Mheshimiwa Speaker, I find passing this bill, I find it very healthy because, one, sports activity involves exercise and skills to us as honorable members, as readers, and as Kenyan nationals. Mheshimiwa Speaker, with this bill, us as readers, we are going to play our role because, you see, there are source of funds, and one of our roles is to oversight. So as we play our role, we are going to make sure that those who are involved in sports activities are well taken care of. Mheshimiwa Speaker, with this bill, and we support these activities, it's a source of income to our country. You find we have various activities in sports, that is maybe football, athletics, rugby, and when we boost those activities and they go on international levels, they generate income to our country. So I raise to support the bill 100%, and I will request other honorable members, we support the bill. Thank you, Mheshimiwa Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Kezia Ukumu, you wanted to submit your views. I have seen your microphone blinking.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir, for giving me this opportunity. I rise to support the bill and commend the Sports Committee for the good job they have done. I would like to add some few things about the Sports Committee, if they can give us, we as members, they give us a chance also to be practicing so that we can reduce weight, a form of jogging once in a while or weekly, because so far we don't have any gym around the assembly where we can do some jogging. So I request the committee to plan for us as a county assembly. We have a day off for us to do some exercise. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Thank you. The Honourable Member for Naivasha East and the Honourable Member for El Bagon, in that order. And then we are going to have the mover.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, let me first of all thank the person who came up with this idea of having a bill. In actual sense, Mr. Speaker, we have been living in a legal lacuna, whereby we have been having some regulations without a bill, and that's why we have been having a lot of problems, Mr. Speaker. Sometimes we are told it is 500. Even the equipment that are being bought or sports facilities, sometimes they become 40. So, Mr. Speaker, number two, Mr. Speaker, let me now move to the progressive part of this bill, Mr. Speaker. One, Mr. Speaker, I do recognize with the committee that has been established, Mr. Speaker. If we can go together, if you look at Mr. Speaker, that is 3 objects of the bill. They are too progressive, Mr. Speaker, and they are too promising. But, Mr. Speaker, go to 4. And because that is now where members ought to come in, Mr. Speaker, where we have the establishment of the committee. Mr. Speaker, if you look at that establishment of the committee up to D, Mr. Speaker, you can now call the chief executive or member may not be a sports person. What even sports is, you can have a chief officer who is also. Therefore, that calls for enhancement with E, which is important, Mr. Speaker, where we have the bodies. And they are only two representatives, Mr. Speaker. Therefore, if we can have the athletics, and then we have, for example, football, then it means that we leave a gap for the rest. If you go to E, it is good, it's constitutionally composed because it has a PWD and it has a youth. I was proposing, Mr. Speaker, and because the bill is here with us, that we still have another person or another two persons, Mr. Speaker, who can maybe be like coaches. We can have them because they can be there, and then the two maybe from athletics, from the bodies or athletics. But maybe you leave karate, you leave taekwondo, you leave rugby. When we have that one, and we have known that the two bodies represented athletics, and the other one represented what? For example, football. And Yambo Wadia is there and is rugby. So we can have that composition like that. Then, Mr. Speaker, go to factions of the committee. That's now where I have a very big problem, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, if you look at the factions of the committee for developing and reviewing the policies, that one has no problem with the policies. But Mr. Speaker, go to B, overseeing county sporting event and tournament. Mr. Speaker, when you look at what we do when we are doing the budget, we have the CIDP. Annually, from the CIDP, we have the annual development plan. So, Mr. Speaker, you cannot start sport without a what? A plan. What are you funding? What are you oversighting? What are you for? So, Mr. Speaker, my suggestion would be that as we do pass here in the Assembly, we do have an annual development plan that we do a debate, and then it is passed by the Assembly so that it can be budgeted for. What are we really be budgeting for? We have to develop a plan. Therefore, this committee must first of all come up with a plan, Mr. Speaker, so that the members will know what are we budgeting for. So that it is from the plan that we give a percentage of the financial allocation. So, Mr. Speaker, I am of the view that we first of all, the committee must come up with a plan that will be deliberated and discussed by the Assembly, so that we know exactly what we are doing. Therefore, we have a sports plan, Mr. Speaker, so that that committee can be able to do that. Mr. Speaker, I am also of the view that from that one, Mr. Speaker, we have done collaboration and the rest. We also had the issue of the upward mobility. That one, how do you train, how do you coach, how do you go that way, Mr. Speaker? Mr. Speaker, you go to director. I have no problem with number 6. It is good and well thought. Because the director, the work of a director is only like a technician who calls the switch and cause of the switch. Therefore, that one has no problem. Mr. Speaker, the biggest problem in the room is number 7. And this one I will put it mathematically, Mr. Speaker. If you look from all what the people have said, the word administrator, if you go to the establishment of World Sports Committee, this is where, Mr. Speaker, now I have the cognitive and technical problem with. Mr. Speaker, if you are taking the word administrator, so the word administrators are alien to the words. Some comes from as far, you can have one from Naivasha, but is domiciled in Kurusoi, who comes technically. Therefore, you cannot tell that person that to control. Mr. Speaker, I am of the view that we can do away with the World Sports Committee. And then we have the sub-county. And then, because if you look at A and B, there are people who are coming. What administrator is alien. The officer in directorate is an alien. If you go to the nominees, are alien. So, Mr. Speaker, the ward will constitute, will have two. Those two, that is, I am seeing members, I am in C. So that in 8, therefore we can sit down as MCAs and our administrator and agree that the other one from the field of athletics. Then we go to where Palanga comes from. We tell Palanga, bring one domicile from football and volleyball. The other one from that. At the end of the day, we have a sub-county committee that is representative of the ward that has all the technicalities in it. That one, Mr. Speaker, we resolve. If you look at the ward, you only have only 2 people, and then there will be so many that the body what we are benefiting from is only 2 people. So if you can take your 2 people from a sub-county where you have 8, where you have 5, what you have done, you have enriched that what? That committee. It can make a superb decision. And Mr. Speaker, my view was, if you look at it from the sub-county, you cannot jump off from the county, you go to the ward. There will be a lacuna in between. And that's why we are saying that when you are 2 representatives from the ward, they will enrich the sub-county and they can come up with big ideas that can also enhance the plan that I talked about, which should be made by the other committee. Mr. Speaker, go to financial provisions. Mr. Speaker, my biggest problem, and I know you know that, for a financial year, we have said establishment of a fund. Members, if we do establish a fund directly, and OPO is here, we will fall into big problems because this thing may not go through.
Honorable Member, that was taken care of. There is
I want just only to put my, I want only to put some.
There is an existing amendment to that. But so that I don't disturb your line of thought, you can proceed.
Yes. When you put a fund, Mr. Speaker, directly we fall into big problem. And because there has been some money, we remove establishment of the fund and we come up with a budgetary allocation. Because now we have a plan that we said that they start a plan. So we are funding a plan. So it is a budget to fund the what? The sports plan. So we have that plan. If you have that plan, we will have removed all this. Then you go to A. May appropriate where do we get the budget now, other than the fund? Because if you have fund, you have so many things, Mr. Speaker, and because you have said that you have taken care of that, now we come to the fund. Well, no, we come to the budget. Now funding the budget. Because now it is a budget. Mr. Speaker, we can have money that we can appropriate from our Mondays, and then you take that. But Mr. Speaker, we must first of all start with the cardinal objective of the plan. The plan must be funded because it was approved by the Assembly. Therefore, we put some money. And that money, Mr. Speaker, must be a certain percentage. The negotiation must now be, do we put a percentage of the money that is of the whole budget, both comprised of both the development and the what. So if we say that it is from the development, we know that it is this plan is a development. We are developing what? Plan. So we put some percentage of the money that we have for the development. I don't know whether the members are getting what I'm saying. So if we say 2%, it is 2% of the budget that we passed and has been approved by the Assembly of the budget money. So that one, we remove this issue of 500 that it looks like a donation. So it will be there. So if I feel that the 2% in my ward is not appropriate, I can now, from the money that I have from the ward, appropriate, and it's passed by the budget. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, that one I think it is now understood. We first of all look what was 5%. It was 5%. This 500 was what percentage of what? So when we know that, we know how to do with that one, Mr. Speaker. The last thing, Mr. Speaker, I don't want to seem as if I was crucifying the bill, but we want to enhance it, Mr. Speaker. If you look at now those further amendments, if at all there are amendments, if you look at that one, Mr. Speaker, what the Assembly will be doing at the end of the day, we will be budgeting for a plan. If it is at all, it is people from Kitororo, because they are 2 representatives were in the sub-county, they brought their views, to the committee that is in the constituency. Then we develop a plan. We will, at that particular time, be able to say that this plan is a deficit, it is not good, and then the members of the county assembly will have a say in the plan. And the last thing, Mr. Speaker, is now how do we now do the internationals? Mr. Speaker, as we do that from the plan, we will now be able to put, if at all it is even a drama, you can be able to fix it. If at all it is the cultural one, you may be able to fix it because it is part and parcel of the sport. If at all it is music, you will know how to deal with it from the plan level. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, those are maybe my submission. And then, Mr. Speaker, it is my prayer that because we have tried to enrich this one, other than now having maybe, and I am just praying, other than having the committee of the whole, we give now the committee time to fathom what we have said, so that when we come to amendment, we can either do further amendment as an agreement from the House. Mr. Speaker, I beg to put my submissions.
Thank you. The Honourable Member for Elbagon.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, allow me to commend the committee for having their insight in this bill and also looking at various tenets of sports and also actually displaying them for this House to consider. Mr. Speaker, traditionally, the sports have been taken to be the issues of the youths. But a time have come for us actually to go on board and to go a bit higher to consider other categories, including the elderly, Mr. Speaker. Traditionally, youths are the ones who are active, but also in terms of looking at the aspects of the sports, it can be good, Mr. Speaker, if only even the object of this bill can also be considerate of those elderly in the society so that they can also be supported in one way or another. There are traditional games whereby you've been seeing people, old wazes, for instance, in the coastal region, whereby they usually sit down to participate in certain sort of games. In our areas also, the elderly used to participate in one way or another. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, I want to actually to remove that notion that the sports only belongs to the youths. Mr. Speaker, also allow me also to say there are certain categories of professions that has been omitted by this bill, and they are very critical. I have been to various field activities in the gaming, Mr. Speaker, and those who participate in football, they will tell you they cannot go into the field without a doctor, a medical doctor, Mr. Speaker. That category ought to be considered. Mr. Speaker, just recently, we are concluding the boxing in the country, and members from my ward are representing this county in the boxing activity. And Mr. Speaker, allow me to say that those doctors, there is nobody who can go into the ring without the presence of a medical doctor. If you go to the athletics, Mr. Speaker, there are issues of doping that are affecting this country and the world. Without a medical doctor, Mr. Speaker, to be of giving the guidance to those who are participating in the sporting activities, Mr. Speaker, then we'll be practicing games and sports in vain. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, in this county sport committee, I believe it's high time, as Honorable Karanja had said, for us to be considerate of such kind of professions so that at the end of the day, these people will be giving their input and they also be able to be guiding our sporting men and women as far as the health issues are concerned in their activities. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, that one is paramount and it ought to be considered. Mr. Speaker, though other members have also talked on the issues of the ward administrator, whereby you are saying they are being coordinators, Mr. Speaker, that is a recipe of chaos. And I can tell you, Mr. Speaker, because of the history that we have been here for some few years, and I can tell you that can be used as a tool to fight the members of this county assembly, Mr. Speaker, whereby they be rendered irrelevant in their own wards. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, I would suggest, as Honorable Mheshimiwa Karanja have said, because we do not have sport officer on the wards, let us domicile ourselves on the sporting activities at the sub-county, where each and every sub-county has a sport officer who can now become a coordinator because he's a sporting officer. And they have been employed for that activity, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, those people are just actually idle. They're usually idle, Mr. Speaker. In fact, sometimes we wonder what are they coming to do in our tournaments.
Much of the time we invite them to come and actually to become spectators. They don't know how even we came up with the schedule, the plans for those games, the way we finance those games. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, it's high time we give them responsibilities so that they can be able to be giving back to the society, and also we can have value for our monies. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, allow me to request the committee, because actually we're going to also to sit down with Honorable Karanja and the committee, we try and draft how we can come up with that committee that shall constitute members from those 4 wards or 5 wards or 8 wards in that committee, so that we can have a simultaneous way of dealing with these issues. On the issues of funding, Mr. Speaker, I know that you have said that actually that has been taken care of, but I would wish that that crowd can go silent and let the regulations provide the cure for the management of the funds, because we are going to open a Pandora's box, whereby now this shall become a money bill. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, allow me to request that once we settle down, we retire, we sit down, we enrich this bill, so that we want it to be coming to the committee of the whole. At least this issue that we have raised at this stage will be taken care of, and we are going to pass this bill knowing that at the end of the day, this shall be the bill of Nakuru County, and it is not going actually to be a missile for actually bombing the members in the future. I beg to support and request the chairperson to consider the views that we have given. Thank you.
Thank you. The chair, you may respond. Before the chair comes in, it is important to note that there is a report, and behind the report there is a annexed, the proposed amendments. So even as the chair responds, it is good to look at them. And so now, after this session, when now you'll be writing or even proposing what you want to be done, now it's going to be very clear and straightforward, so that now you don't rely to what had been provided for in the proposed amendments. So we also want to bring 2 issues that have been raised here. There is the issue of budget. The question has been what percentage, and now the percentage, is it the percentage of the total budget? Is it the percentage of the development money? Or is it the percentage of recurrent? What is it? So, Chairperson, Committee on Sports and Budget and members, take note of that. Then the composition of the committee. It is good that is coming out clearly, because we want eventually to have a committee that is responsive and very useful in as far as the sports management committee, committee activities are concerned in the ward. And also the functions of the committee, it's good to look at those. So all the amendments, what we're saying is that it's good to look at them with a view of writing to the chairperson, Committee on Sports, so that now when we go to the committee of the whole, those things or those items can be sorted. Chair?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for this time that you have given me to respond. First, I want to comment on what honorable members have said. And of course, this bill is not mine. It belongs to this great house. Simply because we are all aware that the sporting activities in this great county is ailing. So first, I want to bring to your attention that this week Kisa Games has been going on in Kilifi. And the youths that have been taken, they were only taken to participate in 4 disciplines. And the reason is that it had some budget implications. The basketball team for ladies, volleyball men, football
men and ladies? What about other disciplines? Honorable Speaker, when we were looking at the budget for the entire sports and culture department, we realized that the budget was dropped from 355 million to 305 million, a slash of 50 million. Meaning that even come next year, if this budget is going to remain as it has been proposed, some also other disciplines from this great county will not participate in inter-county competition, youth competition games. Honorable Speaker, I want also to bring to your attention, and I am very sure that you are aware, that this House missed to go for trials for the Alaska Games, and also the teams that had participated well, particularly the bull table teams and some other teams, did not participate simply because of the budget implication that was there. I want to actually ask the budget chair and your office, plus the office of the Speaker, that consider budgeting for these Alaska Games. And I know members are going to participate, and of course they are going to represent this great House seriously. Honorable Speaker, there is a request that some of the honorable members have put across, that we also have a volleyball court within the assembly. However, that is for this great assembly. I want to actually ask the honorable members that I have listened and I have taken notes of all the amendments that you have proposed. However, we have proposed amendments that I am very sure it has scattered for some of the proposed amendments that you honorable members have passed in this great House. We are going to look at all of your grievances and the amendments that you have put, because we want this bill to actually facilitate us, to actually help this great county of Nakuru. Several members have contributed, and actually I'm very much aware that one of the key issues that is going actually to come up is the issue of tournaments. And honorable members, I want to bring to your attention that some honorable members had allocated monies for the tournaments. However, when we tried to look at it keenly, we never had provision on how we are going to use these monies and on how we are going to get this money so that we can organize for these tournaments. In this bill, it has provided for the organization of this and also for the committee that is going to manage these monies. However, your input is of great importance, because we want a committee that will manage these activities, that will come up with these plans, to be a committee that will consider all the wards, that will consider all the sporting activities. Honorable members, we are aware that from our diverse wards, for example, my ward, I come from a ward that is very rich and fertile in terms of athletics and particular and also ball games, that is the handball games. But there are some other wards, especially those wards that are within town. We have the rugby, we have got the indoor games. So we are going to consider what you have put across, that we want the committee to be actually diverse, so that we can come up with a committee that is very considerate. The main objective of this bill, honorable members, is actually to identify, to nurture and mentor the youth. I myself am a very good volleyballer, though I have increased in weight, honorable Speaker, but I can still play very well. But if I was mentored before, at least maybe I would have been an international volleyballer. When I was in Kisii University, I made it to East African Games. I represented Kisii University. I made to Rwanda. I represented Kisii University. I made to Tanzania to represent Kisii University, simply because of these games. But because I lacked mentorship, some of these youths are being misused. The monies which were paid to these youths who are now currently participating in KISA games, they were only given some few monies for accommodation and some few monies for lunches and maybe supper. Honorable Speaker, what they are going, what these youths are going through is miserable. I want to urge this Honorable House that we all come up with this, with the proposed amendments that you have just given us, and maybe you had not captured during the public participation, so that once this bill has gone through, we make sure that it has been implemented. And of course, we are going to ask the Committee on Implementation to make sure that this bill has been fully implemented to the letter. Otherwise, this house is a house of great honor. It is a house that we all need to look at what we have been going through, and we make sure that everything is implemented to the letter. Otherwise, Honorable Speaker, thank you for giving us the support that we required as committee to make sure that this bill reach where it is. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. For clarity, we are proceeding to the second reading. That essentially means that we will have another plenary, another session, where now we are going to proceed to the next stage for the amendments and any additional information that you would want to fill in the skeleton for the bill. So as of now, what is the committee is seeking is to have the bill read for a second time. Now that would provide a situation where now for the amendments to be relooked at the committee of the whole. And so I'm going to put question. And the question is that the Nakuru County Sports Management Bill number 3 of 2023 be now read a second time. As many who are of that opinion say aye. Aye. As many who are of contrary opinion say nay. The ayes have it. Clerk.
The Nakuru County Sports Management Bill 2023, a bill for an act of the County Assembly of Nakuru to provide for the management, promotion and regulation of sports in Nakuru County. Second reading.
Thank you. Next order.
Mr. Speaker, those are the orders of the sitting.
Honorable members, this House is adjourned to today at 2:30 p.m.